walk through any historic neighborhood today, you will see them. The original 19th century windows with thick, distorted, wavy glass. The official history tells us a very simple, condescending story. That Victorian glassmakers were just primitive and lacked the technology. They claim it was a manufacturing defect. That humanity could build mathematically perfect stone cathedrals, but couldn't pour flat glass. But that explanation collapses when you look at the private mansions of the late 1800s elites. Their indoor cabinets used perfectly clear glass. So, why was the exterior glass of everyday homes deliberately distorted? The answer isn't in the manufacturing, it's in the chemistry. Authentic, pre-1900 wavy glass isn't just melted sand. It contains abnormally high concentrations of lead and heavy metals. Lead is dense. It doesn't just block physical light, it is the ultimate insulator against radiation and electromagnetic frequencies. To understand what they were trying to block, you have to understand what happened to the sky in the late 1800s. We know that Old World architecture featured intricate metal spires. Official history calls them decorative lightning rods or aesthetic choices. But before the reset, those spires were functional. They were harvesting free atmospheric energy, creating a harmonic, healing frequency across cities. Then, the reset happened. The banking families, the Morgans, the Rothschilds, hijacked the infrastructure and bought the power grids. They didn't just charge for the air. They inverted the system. They changed the frequencies radiating from the repurposed city spires. The new frequencies weren't meant for energy. They were low-frequency, mind-altering signals designed to keep a traumatized population docile and forgetful. The survivors of the old world knew this. They couldn't tear down the hijacked spires, but they could protect their homes. They designed the wavy, lead-laced glass not to look pretty, but to act as a physical frequency shield for their families. The physical waves and ripples in the glass were mathematically designed to refract and scatter the incoming low-frequency broadcasts. When the harmful signals hit the lead-laced wavy glass, they shattered. The interior of the home remained a safe, silent sanctuary. Think about the psychological horror of that era. People were already covering their mirrors at night, terrified of what they might see. The wavy glass was the ultimate barrier between the safety of the old world memory and the invisible, crushing weight of the new regime. But the elites realized the population wasn't submitting fast enough. The frequency shield was working, so they changed the building codes. By the early 1900s, a massive coordinated campaign was launched to replace dangerous, outdated lead glass with modern, hygienic, clear panes. It wasn't about aesthetics, it was a forced disarmament. Removing the shields from every home in America and Europe simultaneously. Homeowners were heavily fined if they refused to update their windows. The wavy glass was shattered, collected, and melted down. As the clear glass went up, the real suppression began. The unshielded frequencies poured straight into the living rooms and bedrooms. Look at the medical records from the 1910s and 1920s. A sudden, unexplained global spike in nervous exhaustion, insomnia, and psychological fatigue. They called it the stress of the modern industrial age. But it was the biological cost of living in an unshielded microwave grid. The Morgans and the new financial elite didn't just control the money. They controlled the literal vibrations of the air people breathed. They eventually ripped the metal spires off the old buildings when they were no longer needed, replacing them with radio and transmission towers. The few original wavy glass windows that survived the purge are now treated as quaint architectural oddities, expensive antiques. Tour guides in historic districts point to them and laugh at how primitive the 19th century manufacturing process used to be. But if you stand in a room with authentic wavy glass, you'll notice something strange. An absolute heavy silence that modern houses lack. Your cell phone signal might drop. Your modern wireless devices might struggle to connect. The old shield is still doing its job. The people of the 1800s were not primitive. They were survivors of a hijacked world, fighting an invisible war against their new masters. They knew the air itself had been weaponized. The wavy glass was their final defense to keep their minds their own. What else in our modern homes is designed to expose us? We live surrounded by perfectly clear glass, entirely unprotected. We traded our armor for the illusion of a clearer view. But what exactly are we looking at outside those clear windows? A world designed by the banking families. A world where our history is buried under the mud, and our minds are constantly bombarded. The next time you see a wavy glass window in an old Victorian home, don't look through it. Look at it. It is the last physical evidence of a desperate resistance. The fingerprints of a generation that tried to protect us from the frequencies. They erased the old world. They weaponized the grid. And they shattered the only shield we had left. What frequencies are you absorbing right now?